The drama surrounding Aya Wilson's reaction to the LPGA's open embrace of Caitlin Clark has become the latest flashpoint in the ongoing tension between sports leagues that celebrate individuality and those still struggling to manage it. What started as a moment of crossover recognition for Clark, the LPGA inviting her to take part in an exhibition event celebrating women's excellence in sports, turned into a mirror reflecting everything the WNBA continues to wrestle with. And at the center of that mirror stood Aya Wilson, visibly frustrated, her words and body language feeding headlines faster than any press release ever could. For months, Wilson had been at the forefront of the WNBA's conversation about recognition, equality, and respect. As one of the league's most dominant forces, her resume speaks for itself. Championships, MVPs, and a reputation as the face of Las Vegas basketball. Yet somehow, the spotlight seemed to shine elsewhere, always finding Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom from Indiana whose arrival in the league has turned women's basketball into appointment viewing. When the LPGA decided to align itself with Clark in a promotional campaign highlighting crossover female athletes, it wasn't just another partnership, it was a message. One league was treating Clark like a cultural figure, while another still debated her place in its own hierarchy. To Aya Wilson and many in her corner, it felt like the final straw in a season full of mixed messages. How could a newcomer receive invitations, endorsements, and media attention that took veterans decades to build? Behind closed doors, Wilson's frustration reportedly bubbled over, not out of jealousy, but out of fatigue. Fatigue from being the standard-bearer who has to constantly prove that dominance doesn't guarantee visibility. Fatigue from seeing the WNBA embrace Clark when it suits the brand, then grow defensive when that same popularity overshadows long-standing players. Publicly, Wilson tried to keep her composure, but fans caught the tension. Her interviews grew clipped, her tone sharpened, and social media began reading between the lines. When asked about Clark's LPGA invitation, Wilson's expression said what her words didn't need to. It wasn't about golf, it was about what the gesture represented. A different league, one far outside basketball, had figured out how to capitalize on Clark's charisma and visibility without resentment. The LPGA didn't argue over who deserved the spotlight. It simply handed her the mic. And in doing so, it accidentally exposed the WNBA's most uncomfortable truth, that it hasn't yet decided how to celebrate stardom when it comes from someone new, someone it didn't create. Wilson's critics rushed in immediately, accusing her of bitterness, of being unable to handle Clark's rise. But those takes missed the nuance. What Wilson expressed wasn't anger at Clark herself, it was exasperation with a system that refuses to acknowledge how it divides its stars. Wilson's accomplishments built the modern WNBA, yet the infrastructure around her hasn't evolved to match her cultural influence. Clark, with one college-to-pro leap, brought in millions of new fans and broke viewership records. The league should have seized that synergy, blending old and new, veteran and rookie, in a unified marketing push. Instead, it became a competition for attention, a tug-of-war between eras that never needed to happen. Meanwhile, Clark remained composed, her public persona polished and diplomatic. She congratulated Wilson after games, deflected controversy, and stayed focused on her game. Yet every headline, every sponsorship, every celebrity endorsement, every crossover appearance like the LPGA event, seemed to reignite the fire. The story wasn't just Clark rising, it was Wilson watching the sport she helped elevate shift its gaze elsewhere. And when the LPGA proudly announced their Caitlin Clark showcase, that was the moment the dam broke. What made this situation sting even more for Wilson's supporters was how the LPGA's gesture highlighted the gap in the WNBA's own promotional strategy. Golf, a sport often criticized for its exclusivity, somehow managed to look more inclusive, more celebratory, and more forward-thinking than a league built on empowerment. The optics were brutal. The WNBA's internal conflicts, from player resentment to media favoritism, suddenly looked small and outdated compared to the grace with which another league handled the same star power. Wilson's frustration wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. Behind the scenes, insiders hinted that Wilson's team had been pushing for similar crossover opportunities, but few materialized. Endorsements lagged, marketing campaigns came and went, and the league's own narratives often focused on parity rather than personality. That might have been noble in theory, but in the modern era of sports entertainment, personality sells. The LPGA knew that. So did Adidas, Nike, and every brand chasing relevance through women's sports. And as the cameras rolled on Clark smiling on a pristine golf course, the WNBA's internal storm brewed darker. In the public arena, the fan divide deepened. Clark supporters hailed the LPGA collaboration as another milestone for women's sports visibility. Wilson's fans saw it as another example of systemic favoritism, where certain faces and backgrounds are more marketable than others. The debate wasn't just about two athletes anymore. It was about how society chooses its icons. Who gets labeled relatable versus intimidating? Who gets celebrated for confidence and who gets criticized for it? Wilson, to her credit, didn't go full meltdown mode. She spoke with her game, dominating the court, letting her performance shout what words couldn't. But even as she posted double-doubles and led her team to victories, the narrative kept circling back to Clark. Every highlight reel featuring Clark's assists or three-pointers was accompanied by discussions of what it meant for the league. Wilson's achievements, though equal or greater, came and went with less fanfare. And that, perhaps, was what hurt the most. Not the competition itself, but the imbalance of recognition. For the WNBA, the optics became impossible to ignore. The league's social media metrics proved that Clark had changed the game overnight, but the emotional rift between players told another story. Instead of celebrating the surge together, fractures appeared. And in that vacuum, the LPGA stepped in, unburdened by rivalries, unconcerned with hierarchy, and showed the world how to handle momentum. As the dust settles, one thing is undeniable. This isn't just about Aya Wilson losing her composure or Caitlin Clark winning the media game. It's about two faces of a league caught in transition. One built the foundation, the other brought the floodlights. And somewhere in between, the WNBA is being forced to decide what kind of future it wants. One that honors its veterans while still making room for a new generation of stars, or one that lets internal politics overshadow progress. Because if other leagues like the LPGA can recognize the power of collaboration, what's stopping the WNBA from doing the same? The exposure is there, the talent is undeniable, and the fans are hungrier than ever. The only thing standing in the way is the league's own reflection, the need to stop seeing visibility as a threat and start seeing it as evolution. So now the question turns to the audience watching all of this unfold. Is Aya Wilson justified in her frustration, or is she letting outside forces control the narrative? Has the WNBA trapped itself in an identity crisis while the rest of women's sports moves forward? And can Caitlin Clark's rise coexist with the legacy of those who paved the way before her? Drop your thoughts below, like this video if you believe women's sports deserve unity over division, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the next chapter in this ongoing saga is just getting started, and it's one no fan will want to miss.